welcome everyone. So today is March 6th, 2025. This is COM 2500, Identity, Culture, and Communication. It's a general education course where we go through each week different social identities, cultural identities, etc. So throughout the semester, we've been covering a lot of different identities. And one of the, I'm using a textbook by Brenda Allen, a classic and a very important textbook, which was recently updated, that covers basic things like race and gender and sexuality and ability and age. But I've also added a few other ones, including immigration as well too, and different relationship approaches, etc. So I'm also looking at those as identities as well too. So today we're very, very fortunate to have Ziba Shirazi, my dear colleague and collaborator for at least the last, I don't know, 10 years, I think we've been working together. Yes. To speak to us as well. So we started this week on Tuesday with a session on immigration, covering a couple of different articles. One was a very special article by New York Times that sort of was giving a global view of what are some of the things that are driving immigration globally today in the world that we live in, and why is there both a rise in immigration population, but also a need for having immigrants. And so we did that. We also watched a video documentary, very powerful video documentary that looks at the border, US border, and how the fixation and obsession with the border as if everything else around it, doesn't need to be addressed properly as well. So they did a really nice job of showing what are the lives of some people who are trying to, pick up and travel and go through all the hardships that they go through in order to cross the border. And then also some of them, when they got to the border, decided not to cross the border because it would actually take away their opportunity to ask for asylum. So some of the changes, the legal changes that happened, it was very powerful. We then had a discussion about chapter 1 of the book, Iranian Diaspora Identities, Story and Song. Are a couple of the students in the class, I think 3 or 4 students, who presented on that chapter, and in particular focused on the Iranian diaspora community as well too. The book is authored primarily by Ziba Shirazi and by myself. Ziba was originally working on it as a master's thesis, and then after she graduated, we worked together in developing it into a more of a book form and publishing it in 2021, I think, 2020 or 21 as well. So the students have copies of the book, and they have access to different chapters as well. So that just wanted to kind of set the context for today and what we're doing. So, and I just want to welcome Ziba Shirazi to our class today. Ziba is Iranian-American poet. She's a singer, a songwriter, a storyteller, and an educator. She was born and raised in Iran and began writing poetry at the age of 15, and then developed a passion for performance, which I witnessed actually her growing and development of performance work. In 1985, she immigrated to the US, where she independently produced and promoted her debut album, Red Apple, in 1991. This marked the beginning of a prolific career, during which she released 7 albums that blend Persian melodies with world music and jazz influences. She's recognized as the voice of women because of the kind of work that she does in the Iranian community. Her lyrics often explore themes of love and compassion and feminist perspectives. Her innovative project called Story and Song, which we'll go into in detail today, combines lyrical storytelling with live music and video projections to depict the experiences of Iranian immigrants. This has formed the basis of the master's thesis that Ziba did at Cal State LA between, I think, 2012 and 2016, if I remember correctly. And later co-authored the book Iranian Diaspora Identities, Stories and Song, that was published in 2020, that features narratives performed between 2009 and 2019. And these narratives are all contextualized within contemporary literature and performance studies of Iranian diaspora. So there's there's like 19 chapters of individual case studies of lives of people, and then it's preceded by a chapter that contextualizes it, and then a chapter that looks at the themes at the end, a chapter that looks at the themes of diaspora and the stages of cultural transformation that takes place for immigrants. So in addition to her artistic pursuits, Ziba is also a lecturer at Santa Monica College, where she teaches courses in communication studies. And I'm honored that I've been invited to her classes a couple of times to speak as well. Her contributions to music, to literature, to education continue to enrich the Iranian diaspora and beyond, and really help develop this notion, this identity of Iranian-American, hyphenated Iranian-American, that has been a part of the project that she's been developing. So first of all, welcome again, Ziba. I'm glad you're here. I would like to begin with showing a sample that Ziba provided. This is a longer piece. It's about an hour and a half, where Ziba is doing a biography, life history of a very accomplished woman. But we're only going to play just the 2 minutes of this hour and a half long performance, just to give you a taste of how she captures these transformational moments, pivotal moments, where people, like someone picks up and leaves, and then the experience that they go through in order to move to a different location. And so we're just going to play just a couple of minutes of that to give you a sense of that.
So they can inform Faramars when the baby arrived. I was 22 when Layla was born. I had no one to help me or to tell me how to handle a baby. First time bathing her, I had a book by my side, following the instruction, step by step, as if I was following a recipe. It was hard. It was hard, but it was joyful. After 4 years living in Newcastle, we went back to Iran and started a much more comfortable life. Faramars started military service, and I stayed with his mom, teaching at her school. We had a good life, and I never felt anything was missing. But it didn't come easy. I always felt responsible and worked hard. Our second daughter, Marjan, was born. We established an elaborated lifestyle with various groups of friends and pretended to be grown-ups. Now that I think about it, it looks like a theater. Every night, we changed clothes and appeared on a different stage. I used to go to Europe in summertime shopping for the next theater season. It was a mockery. Faramars was appointed sub-dean at the dental school of the National University and began his private practice. And I started to teach at the same university. We lived in Iran for 13 years, till sign of the Islamic Revolution arrived. Layla was 12 and Marjan 7 when 3 of us boarded a plane bound for London in January of 1979, leaving behind a husband, home, and a nation in the turmoil of a revolution. Yet we were amongst the lucky ones. My mother-in-law spent 3.5 terrifying months in prison because she had been a member of parliament during Shah's regime. The Iranian Revolution shattered families. بیامد مردی گفت روح خدایم شما ای عاشقان گردید فدایم که از خون شما.
Okay, so that captures this moment in history where a family has to get up and leave as refugees to another country, and also gives everyone here today a sense of the kind of work that Ziba does, telling these stories, mixing it with lyrical, musical, and performance work as well too. So, yeah, thank you so much. That was great. I'm really glad that you shared that with me, Ziba. I think of immigration like a journey, like setting off on a journey, like leaving behind the familiar, stepping into the unknown. There's all this excitement, and as time passes, then there's all these things that come up, like in terms of new customs, new language, the new roads that one has to take, and finding a balance that to go through. So anyways, I'm really glad that you're here today, and I'm just going to turn it over to you and have you give us some of your thoughts about the process of your work and the process of immigration and cultural transformation.
Thank you, Dr. Afari, for a great introduction, I should say. And hello to everyone online. I'm glad that I'm here. And just because you were listening to that part of the lyrics, I want you to know that that lyrics was after the revolution. It happens after the revolution. And I was talking about Khomeini, who came, and I said, a man came and said that I'm the spirit of God, and everybody should just sacrifice for me. And don't worry about being sacrificed, because from your blood will grow tulips. And that was a very famous things that they said about everyone that was killed in the war against Islamic از خون جوانان وطن لاله بروید. They all was very famous poem that was saying that from the blood of these young warrior, we will have tulips. We will have gardens and gardens of tulips. So now let me go to my speech. As I'm sure you all can tell from my name and accent, I'm an immigrant. And 40 years ago, I walked into US consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, full of optimism and well-rehearsed plan. When they asked about my purpose of my trip, I confidently replied, I want to visit some friends, go to Disneyland, and of course, see Michael Jackson. At the time, it was a peak of Michael Jackson Thriller era, so naturally this sounded like perfectly valid reason to visit the United States even after the Iran's Islamic Revolution. My visa was approved for 3 months in America. Well, that turns out those 3 months had a little flexibility because I'm here 40 years later, still visiting friends and going to Disneyland and never returned to Iran. Did I visit friends? Yes. Did I make to Disneyland? Yes. Did I make to Michael Jackson concert? Unfortunately, no. But I did something even better, a front row seat to the American dream. I completed my education, built a career, and achieved many goals. I believe as we decided to leave our own country and we become immigrants, whether one calls legal or illegal, whether we are poor or rich, educated or uneducated, there is one thing that we all pack in our suitcase, and that is our culture. We take our culture along with memories and leave everything behind in hope of finding a better home and making a better future. Through this journey from country of origin to country of settlement.
Stuck with me. Oh wait, no. I forgot what I said.
One transforms as part of us dies, and we reborn into a new person. Brave ones learn to keep the best of their own culture and mix it with the best of the new culture. I have to admit that this journey is not easy. It takes time, patience, resilience, yet the reward are deeply fulfilling. In 2008, for my master thesis, I gathered true stories of Iranian immigrants, their losses and gains, struggles and successes, stories of who they were, where they came from, who they become as a citizen of the world. I contacted people around me who were willing to share their stories. I explained to them the process that usually takes about 3 hours. And before starting the face-to-face interview that I had with them, I informed them that their voice is being recorded and will be erased right after their transcription, actually. Through an in-depth interview and conversation with them, I discovered a deeper meaning and understanding of how migration had affected them socially, culturally, and personally. I collected data from field to script to performance and mix it with music and imagery, poetry, sound, and sometimes movement. Sometimes I had, someone come in and dance to it. I have gathered nearly 50 stories of diaspora journey of Iranian, a journey of Iranian in aftermath of Iranian Revolution of 1979 by simply asking 2 questions. I asked them, when did you leave Iran? And why did you leave Iran? These 2 questions led participants to share their life story as immigrants. Most of them began by taking me back to the time before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, describing their social and political status. Moving forward to the following topic, they talk about their life status in Iran, their job, their social class, how they live in Iran, and how they left Iran. Actually, they left legally, comfortably by plane, or they left by smuggler, which many political, actually, people that they were involved in political issues, they left by a smuggler. Actually, I'm working in one story right now. And I asked them they tell me that where their first landing place was, their level of education. Did they speak the language of the host country? What kind of visa they got? Like me, did they get like tourist visa for 3 months, or political asylum, or religion asylum? And how are they doing now? Like, actually, are they a citizen now, or are they still kind of undocumented? I asked them, they talk about their first job in the host country. I usually ask them about their best memory and worst memory. And also I love their story about language barrier. So I always bring one language barrier story of immigrants into my story. At the end, I asked them if they are happy with their migration or not, or did they ever go back to Iran? Or let's say if the situation of Iran had been changed, are they willing to go back to Iran? And surprisingly, some of them, they do go back to Iran for visit, but I found none of them would go back to Iran after all these years of migration, even if the situation changed, meaning that they made the host country home, and they call it home. So during interview, I take on the role of an observer, practicing the art of active listener. At times, I become participant myself, sharing my personal story, crying or laughing alongside with them, offering comfort and praising their courage, bravery, and offer their remarkable patience and strength. The second step is to transcribe the recording word by word, exactly as they are, capturing the emotion and language of the participants. I think that's one of the most important things, to keep the language of the participant, because our language comes with our personality, and I think the way we use the words, it has very much describing where we come from, what is the culture of our family. So I try to keep that and save that very much. And then carefully I choose what to keep and what to remove. Because many times as we talk, we elaborate at some points that it's not really needs to be elaborated. So I decide what to keep and what to edit and still stay true to their voice. And finally, I add music and poetry to it, keeping each one under 20 to 25 minutes for a stage performance. I think, to my experience, adding the music and poetry has been very important, and brought so much audience actually just for that matter, especially within Iranian community, which storytelling was coming very new. It was very new to adapt to this matter. And the way I do poetry, I usually bring a part of actually chapter of life, and then end that chapter with just 2 lines of poetry and go to the next chapter. And I found that very complete and interesting, and actually easy moving to another chapter of life. So let's say 10 years after, 5 years after, so on. I perform each story as original character, as if it's my own story. In process, I cry a little, I laugh a little, and I experience truly their journey. I strongly believe a storyteller can bring the story to life, to the point that the audience can feel every emotion. Performing these stories for participants and owners of their stories has proven to be very therapeutic experience. They see their lives from another perspective, and it's an opportunity for them to be heard. It is interesting that at the beginning, when I started to do these stories, because of our cultural belief, we Iranian are very much like to keep face, as we call it. So many of them didn't want to be known. No, they didn't want their name to be told. And because they didn't want others to know how they struggle through life to get to the point that they are right now. But as I was performing this, and it became like a norm to the Iranian community, I would say towards the middle and ending, they wanted me to bring them up on a stage. They were that comfortable with their story being told to the audience, and they liked to, you know, when audience praised them and applaud them. And so it was a great experience. It was truly therapeutic for them. And I named this performance Ethnography Project, a Story and Song, and premiered in Los Angeles in the fall of 2009, the first one. And the next 6 years, I took the performance across the US and Canada. Obviously, along with migration comes the pain of separation, fear of unknown, hardship, and hopes. And hardship, and one hopes might lead to adjustment, acculturation, and growth. As one migrates, one combines the homeland culture, language, rituals, and practices, and values and norms with the culture of the host country, various interaction. It is through this interaction that one decides consciously or sometimes unconsciously what to keep and what to let go from the homeland culture in order to survive into the host culture. During process of psychological acculturation, individuals learn to adapt to new behavior that suits their new culture, context, progressing through 4 stages. So let me introduce you the stages of this process. The first stages is pre-migration, as a breach that we call it. And it starts with chaos at the homeland. Why we decide to move, why we decide to migrate. Some decide to migrate in the stories that I gathered because of the chaos that was happening at home. And one participant says, a checkpoint in the neighborhood where they search our car and everything we carried in our handbag before they go into another places. Another non-Muslim participant said, we were constantly arrested by the moral police for socializing with other gender, because in Islamic Revolution, when the Islamic society, when it began, they didn't allow boys and girls to walk together unless they are married or unless they have something from the family that it's okay with them. And for non-Muslim, it was not the rule. So every time they took them to the police station and find out that they are Armenian and they are not Muslim, they usually say that, oh, let them go, they're, they're not Muslim. And then another feeling that pre-migration is feeling homesick at home. In one story, Hariba said, the second floor of our building became a militia camp. We left after the disconnected of our electricity and everything in the freezer spoiled, leaving an unbearable smell in the air for weeks. I couldn't believe what was happening. It was as if these people were from another planet. I refused to live in a country that I don't even know the law. This is not my country. This is not the country I knew. And then some, they fear for their life, as the story that you just watched, the lady who was the member of the parliament, she was imprisoned for 3.5 months, and then it took, the story goes on to the saying that every day they came to her and say, tomorrow we're gonna hang you. Tomorrow we're gonna, so every day she was dying every day for 3.5 months till they let her go. And another one was saying that my father's friends were being imprisoned and executed one after another. We were worried about my father's safety because many of his friends has been assassinated by Islamic agents around the world. And another one spoke of awaiting actually for execution of her husband. For some, it was living in duality, and like we were one of them actually, that we were forced, I said in my own story, we were forced to live two separate lives, one at home, the other out in public. Our internal life was close to our nature. We held secret parties, we listened to music, we danced and we laughed. In time, we grow accustomed and even addicted to the thrill of our underground joy. Simultaneously, we created a fake person of ourselves to present out on the street. Another actually pre-migration breach is yearning for freedom, dream for a better life. This is again from my own story that I said, I dream of being out and being under the sun and not covering my hair, not covering myself. And another one is saying, it was my dream, just simple dream, to walk with my husband hand in hand in park without Islamic guard harassing us. And at the end is actually the hardest part is farewell to family, friends, and homeland. We migrated to West in hope of a better life, one truer to our nature, despite the unbearable pain of separation from loved ones. The second stage is crossing the border. Border crossing actually can be happening in the homeland and getting visa and coming to the new land that we decided to migrate. And the lady that actually I want to read her story, she's an educator in Iran, that her husband is out of country and she's trying to quit her job and join the husband out of the country, but they don't let her and they don't grant her visa to go. So she said, I went back to the Department of Education and said the most beautiful lie of my life. I said, this is an invitation from my son in America. My husband told me, if you want to come with me, come. If not, I'm leaving. Goodbye. Divorce. What do you think I should do as a Muslim woman? Deception continues at the border and abroad. Another one is saying, finally, we made contact with the smuggler. This is a lady that actually went to Turkey and wanted to, someone in Turkey said that I will smuggle you to Italy and then you can get a US visa. Finally, we made contact with a smuggler who promised to get a visa, to get us US visa. I was so naive, without any question, I gathered the money he asked and handed to him. He got us visa for Italy. When we entered Italy, I realized that visa doesn't include my daughter. And this is the time that she became like a tigress and using non-verbal language, actually shouting at the airport that I'm not gonna let you to keep, as I say it, I still brings tears in my eyes, I should say, that she said, I'm not going to leave my daughter here. You have to grant her visa. So finally, they grant her visa to go to Italy. But she find out that even in Italy, there is no such address that was given to her. So she was living as a homeless person in Italy for weeks and then she decided, because she ran out of money, she decided to just go to the train station and keep the children in train station, at least they stay warm. And then she finds some Iranian, and they took her, and the story is long, but that is one of the most beautiful story of that book, I think. Another hardship, actually, on the second stage is the loss of status and finding the survival jobs. That is what happened to many, many Iranian, actually, especially men, because back then, men used to be the bread earner and women used to be the housewife, actually. And I'm talking about 40 years ago, of course. And so men had better status. They had jobs, they had good jobs that they could provide for the whole family. And by migration, most of them, actually, they lost that status. One said, I was a Mr. Architect under the pager. I was Mr. Architect when the pager went off and I became a limo driver to pick up a client. I was constantly thinking about finding my way back to my own field. There were no ancient building in Los Angeles to store, and no one could recognize me as an architect. And then it's a feeling of homesickness and the separation from a partner. Sometimes man was allowed got visa and excuse me, and the wife was separated, staying in another country for a couple of years until they could both meet at the same country or change their status, that they wanted to really, let's say they wanted to meet in America and make America home, but they ended up living in Canada and made Canada home because they couldn't find a way to get to America. In senior, and it was the feeling of alienation that we call it Gurbat. And in senior life, actually, this is about the lady who after years and years of experience, she gathered all the Iranian community together and for them to talk, to listen to music, to share their stories, to dance, and, such a therapeutical way of connecting to one another. And the senior center that they were at told them that, no, you cannot do this, and you cannot have your own room to speak your own language. So in senior life, she talked about this pain as a trauma and explained to the manager of that senior center. She said, there is a support group for those who face trauma in any way, for those whom their home caught on fire, those who lost loved one, those who face a life-threatening sickness. We have faced trauma too. We are immigrants. We are the ones who lost our homeland. So after this, actually, they do granted, to have their own community center, to have a room in that community center once a week. Another thing is pride and prejudice, the insulting treatment that immigrants get, the pride of their own culture, the parental influence, and the dual marginality. In general, new immigrant population find themselves the object of Iranian, actually, immigrants find themselves of ridicule and insult and state the bitterness of prejudice, particularly facing during the situation of 440 days long of US hostage crisis. in 1979, from 1979 to 1981. I remember, as for myself, at the time of hostage crisis, actually, I was in Houston, Texas, and people, starting to have a demonstration saying Yankee go home. People are starting to break the car windows and home windows of Iranians, and have demonstration with, telling government to send all Iranian back home. And it was a bad situation for us, actually. And even after the revolution, towards the beginning of the revolution, towards the early years of the revolution, I would say that it took some time for Iranian to find their place within American culture. I remember, as for myself, I was working for an American guy in an American office doing secretarial job. And once he just simply opened the door and said, "Ziba, I'm sorry, I just can't stand you." And that blunt. Just because you're Iranian, I have to let you go. Just leave the office. And I left the office, and the situation wasn't nice. The situation was very uncomfortable, actually, during those days. And it was then Iranian had to, immigrants, actually, not Iranian, all the immigrants at some stage, they have to apply for some kind of asylum, either political asylum or religious asylum. And that varies. In Europe, it's easier to get religion asylum. In America, it's easier to get political asylum. I had a story that she said every time we went to German and we asked for religion asylum with some story about our religion. And every time we go to American consulate asking for political asylum, we change our story and we made our story like a political story. But at the end, actually, they were granted political asylum and it came to the US. And the third stage we go to is the networking with community. We like to be with our own community. Whether we are Iranian, we are Hispanic, we are Italian, we are French, it's easier to find our own people. It's easier to communicate with them. We have shared pain to talk to one another. We understand the language, and because that language barrier can be very tough, and sometimes even our name, like my name is Ziba. In Persian, it means beautiful. And many times when I say Ziba, they say, "Oh, zebra." And I say, "No, Ziba." Or Ziba, no, Ziba. And another girl, her name was Shahrzad, and she said, everyone called me Shahrzad. I said, "No, Shahrzad, just like Shahrzad." So, and another friend, actually another participant said, "My name is Farhad. Here they call me Fred. For a long time, they called me Fraud, or sometimes Frog." A friend of mine told me to change my name to Fred so that American would be able to pronounce my name. So we try to make life easier for ourselves. And in doing so, sometimes we have to change our name. And then we network around the community because it's easier. It's easier to find like for myself, I found a job with Iranian doctor because Iranian doctor has Iranian patient, and Iranian patient, it's more comfortable. And then when American comes, they can speak English with the doctor and I speak English with them. But it was easier actually for us to do to do the networking and find job within ourselves. And there is a story actually within Iranian architect that when they came here, many of them at the time, they started being a taxi driver. And until they came up with a society for architecture. So when they network with one another, they start giving each other jobs. Now they became more of the architect, less of taxi driver. And it helped a lot, actually, that networking and making those community together. And another thing is actually, it's a gender role that an expectation. At the time, of course, I'm talking about 40 years ago in Iran, that men were the breadwinner, women were mostly housekeeper, taking care of the kids and everything. And in one of my stories, actually, that is the mother with two daughters that lived in Italy, separated from the husband for 3 years. And she experienced a new life. She started to work. She became a bread earner. She took care of those two girls. They went to school. She became a political activist. She became opening her door to, many immigrants, and she became more than who she was back home. So she had a voice now. She wanted for her voice to be heard. So she said, oh, actually, I choose another script on that. But with her, she said, after 3 years, when finally my husband and I met and we start living together, we felt like two strangers, because I wasn't the same woman that he married. I had changed. I became a new woman. I became a woman that when I say no, I wanted to mean no. I had my own thinking now. And every morning he was like, who is this woman in the same bed with me? I don't know her anymore. And, but she said, gradually, we both find a way to meet finally in the middle. And he began to notice me as who I am and began to accept me as a woman, as someone with voice, as someone with character, as someone with, my own things that I want to do. And I have to say they are both very successful husband and wife living in Canada now. And they are truly activist husband and wife, and the two daughters working in every situation, that political situation. But in another story on a girl with American husband, this is actually a good friend of mine that she said, when she married her husband, of course, the husband was working and she was, living like a Persian housewife that she used to live back home. And but the husband got sick and she couldn't work and she couldn't be the bread earner. So she said, for years, and she started to work and become a bread earner. And she said, for years, I thought I was doing my husband a favor. I thought he was responsible for two of us, and I was just helping him for the moment. Living in America with him allowed me to state a real flavor of equality between men and women. Life is full of surprises. It's just the fourth stage is when we acculturate, actually, when we find a new home and we began to celebrate Christmas, we began to celebrate 4th of July and began to call this place home.
But I want to say, first of all, thank you so much. This is so great to hear you speak. And Ziba, both working with you over the years and today again listening to you, it's like a master class in care and craftsmanship. The way you gather your stories, the way you honor each voice with such deep attention to the grain and the resonance, and demonstrating all the skills and the respect you have for human experience, your ability for emotional turning points and transforming them into lyrical passages. It really just is amazing, both intuitively and intentionally, the way you do this work. Thank you. Your musical, this adding those layers of richness with music, that you making the words sing, really, the stories that are singing, so breadth and nuance. So it's really just great to hear the way your artistry, the narrative and the emotion and the artistry all come together so seamlessly, and really appreciate that. Just the skill, the beautiful research skill that I hope our students in this class will be able to just get just having a sense of that is a possibility for all of us, as communication students and scholars, to do this kind of nuanced work. Yes, Ziba.
If I may say, I truly would like to encourage your student to go and talk to your immigrant parents, your immigrant grandparents, your immigrant friends. They all came afar. They all travel afar, and they have lots of story to share. And this is the best way of connecting to people, hear their stories. I don't know if you guys remember the miniseries Cheers. There was a theme song on that series. It was saying that sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. They're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see our troubles all the same. You want to be where everybody knows your name. This is our story as a traveler. We are so homesick that we want to be at the place that everybody knows our name, that everybody will look. It is a kind of warmth that you want to feel as an immigrant, sometimes that it's not, but that is how I felt. I wanted everybody to pronounce my name correctly instead of Ziba and Zebra. For years, I was looking for people who were celebrating Nowruz, Persian New Year, instead of Christmas. For years, I was living in liminal space, neither in Iran nor in America. Somewhere lost in between. It took me years to pass the stage that Van Geppen calls rites of passage, the passage from one social status to another. It's often accompanied by a parallel passage in a space, a geographical movement from one place to another. Today, I don't want to be where everybody knows my name. Today, I'm happy to introduce myself to the people that are coming from different culture with different background and culture, speaking different language, eating different food. I simply says, my name is Ziba. You can call me beautiful, but that is what it means in English. As Pico Layer, a British-born essayist and novelist of Indian origin, said, home is where you stand out. Here I am today, performing and fulfilling my dreams on stage around the world, feeling this is my home. This is the place I stand out. I migrated to the United States as a young Iranian girl. Today, I'm universal, a woman from a world with a Persian accent. Thank you for having me. And I hope your class could actually connect with it and take something from it.
Thank you so much, Ziba. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And I'm going to stay with the students and take attendance real quick, and then we'll end the class.
So much. And
Thank
have a
you.
great rest of the day.
Oh,
Bye.